I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to read the rewards of trading, whether the price is going up or down. Over on total for the daily, it does look like we tried to pull back into our pattern that we had, but we are trying to bounce. So if we can continue this bounce, we could continue bullish momentum and continue toward that 926. Momentum is pushing forward, VWAP is bullish, but starting to pull back, so just keep an eye on it. Remember, if it gets a little dip in the bearish territory, not the end of the world. We might see a red candle for a day or two, and then hopefully you would see that bounce back and then continue with the green. But watch those lower time frames, and remember, if they start favoring bearish and holding, then those higher time frames likely would do the same. Momentum does want round with the red dot as VWAP is breaking down here on the 1 hour. Money flow is pulling back, stochastic is dropping away, RSI is losing strength, and this could look like a double top for us, so I would exercise caution on that because you have this rise, a drop, a rise, and then you would get another drop, which would give you a breakdown. You would measure that by going to where your two drops would be, measuring your neckline to the top, and then applying that pull down, and that'll give you your breakdown point somewhere right around that 729. But that would be dependent on that VWAP favoring bearish and breaking down from here. If that VWAP does not favor bearish and break down like it did right here, then it's likely we would continue forward. So what we want to see here is that VWAP to make a bounce and remain in bullish territory. Momentum does want to push forward, but is starting to get a red dot as that VWAP is attempting to break through. So I would watch that very close. Again, if we see lower highs and lower lows, then price is likely going to drop away a little bit. But right now, I would say we do look positive, and we do look like it is possible to still continue forward. If we could potentially have a flag going on in this range, kind of hard. Maybe count that candle and that candle to make our bottom, but that'd be a very weak bottom in my opinion. But you would measure that up, and that would give us a break toward that 870 billion. So that would be a decent move, but again, it's not a confirmed pattern, so take it with a grain of salt. If we do approach that bottom, watch for that bounce. That bounce likely would be that last touch of the bottom, where we would bounce up, hopefully, and then break forward. If we broke down and rejected, that's where you'd want to set your buy orders for those rejected areas. So over on Bitcoin futures, we do have indecision here as well. Again, we still have that gap. So remember, gaps have an 80% chance to fill. So there's an 80% chance that we would drop down at least toward this 91, 92K. Again, don't get too worried if we see that, because we could fill that and then continue forward. We tried to do that today, but we weren't able to get like a solid candle here. VWAP is starting to pull back, momentum is rounding, and that money flow is in the red. So I would watch that VWAP very close, as we may see that little bit of a dip yet. But if we look here on the 1 hour, we did have somewhat of a descending channel over on Bitcoin, but futures did not map out the same. But we did break away. We tried to make a bearish trend, and then we broke forward. I would just watch for a rejection here. If we get a rejection here, that's likely where we would fill that gap, and then hopefully get a higher low and continue forward. Our MPP does project there's a decent chance again rejected here and continuing lower. There's also a 50% chance of pushing forward though. So we could see 100K like the MPP was saying the other day, providing we fill that gap, go forward, and then stay above that 93K. Right now, that 93K is our major support level, so we would ideally fill this gap, then continue and break above it. We would want to see how Bitcoin's looking as well, though, because Bitcoin does look a little bit different. Over on the daily here, we did try to break down, but we did draw a descending channel. If you're on our Discord, you may have been able to make a move on that. VWAP is starting to pull back, momentum is rounding, RSI is dropping away, and that stochastic is starting to break, so I would just exercise caution. But if we look over at the 1 hour, I believe it was right around here that we mentioned that the VWAP did look decent. Just watch for it to continue. We did manage to break forward, and we did manage to attempt to get about 2/3 of the move forward. But we could make a bounce here and then get another bounce above that 93K. I would say that's not the scenario we would want, because then that does still leave that futures gap, which would set us up for a continuation forward, just to come back down, crashing down, and then everyone would start panicking again. Momentum does want to round. We have a red dot. VWAP is overall starting to weaken, so watch that VWAP with that lower high. Watch for lower lows. If we get lower lows and favor below that neutral, then momentum will continue lower, money flow will break down, and price action will start to retrace. Over on graph for the daily, it does look like we did try to break from that flag that we drew on the lower time frame, so that is positive. But again, I would just watch how the rest of the market looks. We may see a little bit of a shakedown and then a pump forward if we're able to sustain these levels. But that could be a long lower shadow candle, which a long lower shadow candle, if followed by a strong green candle, would signal that we can continue forward, which would help push us toward that 11-cent range. Momentum is pushing forward. VWAP is starting to pull back. That money flow is in the red, so I would just watch that VWAP. If it continues to reject, momentum will lead us lower, and we will continue to see a sell-off. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a little bit of consolidation going on. We did pull back and then got bounced, so we want higher highs with higher lows from here. If we can get higher highs with higher lows, that's where we would continue with this bull flag possibility. So right now, it does look probable, providing the rest of the market can continue up. Our momentum is bullish, but that VWAP is starting to pull back, and it's struggling to hold above that neutral. We want to see that VWAP make a bounce here. Otherwise, that momentum could roll over. Money flow would go into the red, and then we would weaken those higher time frames. So I would exercise some caution there. Over on XRP for the daily, does look like our MPP is projecting one brutal run down, 100% chance of hitting $1.10. I know if that happens, I'm going to be buying some more, but there's also a 25% chance of hitting $14. So remember, don't take everything with a grain of salt. Don't just run with everything you see. But over on the daily, our stochastic is starting to round. RSI is starting to pull back as a result. Momentum is starting to round. VWAP is pulling back and money flows remaining in the red. This could be a long lower shadow candle, but I would want to see a strong green candle to push us forward. Right now, this indecision red candle that is following this indecision long upper shadow candle is a little worrisome. Remember, a long upper shadow shows bulls tried to push us up, but the bears stepped in. Now, this red candle also shows that the bears are gaining a bit of control. The wick does show that the bulls did fight back the bears to an extent, but I would still exercise caution and watch those lower time frames. Over on the 1 hour here, we do have a lower high, so watch out for a lower low. If we get a lower low, that could create a bearish continuation, which could try to drop us down. There's about a 50% chance of bouncing where we are now, and a 50% chance of breaking to that $1.90 like we have been warning you about. Our stochastic is starting to pull back, our RSI is starting to weaken, our VWAP does want to break that neutral, and momentum is starting to round with the red dot, so I would exercise caution with that VWAP breaking down. If it breaks into a bearish trend again, we could see another downturn just like here, which would bring momentum lower, break money flow into the red, weaken those higher time frames, and potentially give us a further sell-off if we can't make a bounce somewhere around that $2, $1.90 range. Over on XRP for the daily, it does look like we are starting our Anchor for the daily. Don't know what I'm reading. Over on Anchor for the daily, it does look like we tried to push up toward that resistance yesterday. We got rejected. Now we do have another long lower shadow candle, but again, it is one of those red indecision candles that show the bears do have a little bit more control here. VWAP is starting to pull back, momentum is rounding, money flow is breaking down, our stochastic and RSI are starting to weaken, so I would exercise caution there. Over on the 1 hour here, it does look like we have a big consolidation. We did drop down to fill this first gap right here that we created over the last few hours. But remember, we do still have two gaps to the downside that we could end up filling if we see the rest of the market pull back. That VWAP also has a lower high potentially right here, so watch out for a lower low. If that VWAP gets a lower low, momentum will round away, money flow will start to pull back, and price action will start to break down. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night. Hit the like and subscribe and join us in that Discord.